scare on board the mid-air emergency. The new images from onboard a Delta flight. The pilots radioing they had an engine out. A piece of the plane trapped in the engine, the flight crew urging passengers to brace themselves to prepare for an emergency landing. The toddler who fell 150 feet on a cruise ship, tonight that family demanding answers, asking why a window was open near the children's water park area on that ship. The horrific scene in broad daylight, the stabbing spree in Seattle. Multiple people attacked, pictures from the scene tonight, and now the suspect. The firestorm growing over Jeffrey Epstein, his home raided, arrested and charged with sex trafficking, girls allegedly as young as 14. Tonight, President Trump is asked about the man he once socialized with, and growing calls for the president's labor secretary to resign. He was the prosecutor who agreed to Epstein's plea deal so many years ago. An American woman, a scientist and mother, discovered dead overseas, found in a cave. The alarming number tonight, 11 sightings now of great whites off the East Coast in just 48 hours, where this is playing out, and the very rare image of great whites interacting. Remembering an American original, Ross Perot, who shook up the presidential race more than once. And have you been overcharged? The sweeping new case tonight against a well-known hotel chain. What to look for on your bill.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Tuesday night. And we begin tonight with those frightening moments on board a Delta flight that took off from Atlanta. 154 passengers and crew, the pilots suddenly radioing air traffic control, saying they had an engine out. And take a look. This was the alarming sight right out the window, a metal part sucked right into one of the engines. Passengers said they could hear it when it happened. The pilots diverting to Raleigh-Durham as the flight crew urged passengers to put their heads down to brace for that emergency landing. ABC's David Curley covers aviation, and he leads us off tonight.
Tonight, we are seeing what frightened Delta passengers witnessed firsthand. That is part of an engine rattling around right after a loud noise.
After we heard the boom, we just saw all this smoke come up into the cabin, and that's when we really started freaking out.
Captain came on the loudspeaker and said that we had lost an engine.
Inside the cabin, the flight attendants quickly prepping passengers. Each passenger asked to show they know the bracing position.
Flight attendants are going to come through and make sure that you've got this position down.
Some passengers scouring their emergency cards.
Make sure your seatbelt is really tight, as low as possible. When we say brace for landing, put your forward, your head to your lap.
The flight from Atlanta to Baltimore quickly diverting for an emergency landing in Raleigh-Durham. Delta says it was a contained failure of that left engine, with the nose cone still bouncing around and an orange glow around the still spinning shaft. The jetliner touched down yesterday afternoon, and those emergency vehicles racing out to make sure the trouble did not spread. The aircraft is a 32-year-old MD-88 with the engines mounted on the fuselage near the tail. Hours later, passengers finally made it to Baltimore with stories to tell.
I just texted my mom, "I love you."
David Curley with us live tonight from Reagan National. And David, investigators are already trying to figure out what caused that engine to fail.
Yeah, Delta's telling us they took the engine off the jetliner today, and even some employees for the airline were surprised by this video to see that nose cone still bouncing inside the engine. I'm told that the engine will be put on a truck. It'll be taken to Atlanta so they can try and figure out why it failed. David?
Really an unsettling picture, David. Thank you. We're going to turn now to a major new development in that awful family tragedy on board a cruise ship. Chloe Wiegand was just 18 months old, falling from a window on the ship's 11th deck. That's 150 feet up. Tonight, her family wants to know why that window was open. And this image tonight, that deck, those windows seen shortly after her fall. Chloe's family says she was in a children's play area, and tonight, how the cruise line is now responding. Here's ABC's Ariel Reshef.
Tonight, the family of Chloe Wiegand fiercely fighting back against reports the Indiana toddler slipped through her grandfather's arms while playing near a window on this Royal Caribbean cruise ship.
This was a preventable tragedy.
The 1.5-year-old died Sunday afternoon after plummeting 150 feet from deck 11 of the Freedom of the Seas, docked in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Chloe's grandfather claiming he walked her to the glass window bank near the children's water park area, seen in this video from a cruise earlier this year.
There's a wood railing right there. He puts her up on there thinking that she's going to bang on the glass and it's going to be great. And she goes to bang on the glass, and the next thing he knows, she's gone.
An attorney for the Wiegand family saying Chloe's grandfather had no idea this window was open. According to her family, Chloe loved to look through glass, pictured here face against the boards at her big brother's hockey game. The Puerto Rican police commissioner saying investigators are interviewing her family members. Their lawyer saying the cruise line should have done more to ensure the safety of the ship's youngest passengers.
Why would you ever, in a kids' play area, put windows that passengers can open?
Royal Caribbean telling ABC News they are assisting local authorities as they make inquiries after the incident. Tonight, the Wiegands demanding to see the ship's surveillance video from the deck.
We all know those video cameras all over those ships, and of course, a video is worth 1,000 words.
And Ariel Reshef with us live tonight. Ariel, of course, that surveillance video perhaps could hold more answers. And her family from Indiana is still in Puerto Rico tonight?
That's right, David. Chloe's family is still on the island tonight waiting for her body to be released. Their attorney says that they have not yet decided whether they will file a lawsuit. They want to see that surveillance video and have many more questions they want answered first. David.
So many thoughts with that family. Ariel, thank you. We were monitoring a horrific scene playing out in broad daylight today in Seattle. A man with a knife attacking several people. The chaotic scene on the street outside a major department store there. Here's ABC's Will Carr tonight.
A man armed with a knife on this busy downtown Seattle street sent shoppers scrambling.
It sounds like there's several stabbing victims at this point. The suspect at large.
Police say the stabbing spree started around 10 this morning near a Nordstrom department store. The suspect, 29-year-old Christopher Morissette, seen in this mugshot from a previous arrest, allegedly stabbed 3 people on the sidewalk, then took off and tossed this pocket knife with a 3.5-inch blade. Police say he stripped off his clothes as he sprinted away from officers until he was fully nude.
Our suspect's running eastbound on Pike, crossing 8 with no clothing.
Police arrested Morissette blocks away, his hands cuffed behind his bare back. They say they recovered a knife in the back of a FedEx truck and the suspect's clothes in the street.
We do believe that this was an unprovoked and random attack, so it is very concerning for us.
Tonight, the suspect faces a felony assault charge. 2 of the victims were taken to the hospital where 1 remains in serious condition. David.
Will Carr tonight. Will, thank you. Now to the growing firestorm surrounding multimillionaire Jeffrey Epstein tonight, arrested and charged with sex trafficking. Girls allegedly as young as 14. Federal agents using a crowbar to break into his home, carrying out evidence. And tonight, right here, we have new reporting on what was found inside. And this evening, President Trump is asked about Epstein, a man he once socialized with, and about his labor secretary, who was the prosecutor on the Epstein case so many years ago. Tom Yamas again tonight.
Tonight, new video of federal agents storming into Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan mansion. Officials now examining what they allegedly found inside. Hundreds of photos, some of what seem to be of underage girls naked. And inside of a locked safe, compact discs. One allegedly labeled Young Miscellaneous Nudes 1. The disgraced financier remains in jail, charged with sex trafficking, accused of sexually abusing underage girls, some as young as 14. At one time, the well-connected mega millionaire drew praise from President Trump back in 2002 before allegations surfaced. Trump saying he was, quote, a terrific guy, going on to say, it is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. Today, President Trump pressed to answer questions about Epstein.
He was a fixture in Palm Beach. I had a falling out with him a long time ago. I don't think I've spoken to him for 15 years. I wasn't a fan. I was not, a long time ago. I'd say maybe 15 years. I was not a fan of his, that I can tell you.
And President Clinton once said Epstein is both a highly successful financier and a committed philanthropist. Clinton's office now saying he knows nothing about the terrible crimes and that in 2002 and 2003, President Clinton took a total of 4 trips on Jeffrey Epstein's airplane and that he's not spoken to Epstein in well over a decade. Now, an increased scrutiny into the president's labor secretary, Alex Acosta, for his role in granting Epstein immunity years ago when he was U.S. attorney in the Southern District of Florida.
I pled guilty to solicitation of prostitution.
The wealthy money manager serving just 13 months in county jail, registering as a sex offender. The secret agreement also halted a federal grand jury investigation. And tonight, growing calls on Acosta to resign. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and others saying he must step down.
If he refuses to resign, President Trump should fire him.
The president standing by Acosta.
I feel very badly, actually, for Secretary Acosta because I've known him as being somebody that works so hard and has done such a good job. But we're going to be looking at that and looking at it very closely.
And earlier, Secretary Acosta responding, tweeting this: "The crimes committed by Epstein are horrific, and I am pleased that New York prosecutors are moving forward with a case based on new evidence."
And Tom Llamas with us live again tonight. Tom, Secretary Acosta's critics saying there was a lot of evidence 11 years ago when that plea deal was reached. But any early idea tonight how much new evidence there is?
Well, David, New York prosecutors say they have new victims and new witnesses. And as we reported just now in our report, they seized photos, nude photos of women, many that seem to be underage, along with those compact discs. But David, as you mentioned, critics of Secretary Acosta say when he was U.S. attorney, they had mounting evidence. They had several victims, several witnesses, yet they chose not to indict. David?
Tom Llamas outside the mansion raided 24 hours ago. Tom, thank you. We are also following severe storms on the move tonight. 25 million Americans in the path. The system already triggering flash flooding in Fargo, North Dakota, and cars flooded. This is Kearney, Nebraska right here. And new images of that record downpour in the D.C. area 24 hours ago. This car washed away in Potomac, Maryland. All of this as we also watch the Gulf of Mexico tonight. This is important. Chief Meteorologist Ginger Zee tracking it all from Dallas tonight. Ginger.
David, the issue here is heat. Heat advisories from here to Alabama for heat indices up to 111 through tomorrow. But that's just the beginning. Let's look at the map. Severe thunderstorm watches from northeastern Wyoming and western Nebraska and South Dakota. That's tonight. Damaging wind possible from Chicago to Lansing, Michigan, back to St. Louis, including parts of Wisconsin tomorrow. Then all eyes on the Gulf, where a broad area of low pressure has now started to move westward and will and should become a tropical depression in the next 24 to 48 hours. What that means for Louisiana especially, that's where a lot of the models are trying to go. Back to Texas, even to the Florida Panhandle, 5 to even 10 inches of rain, David.
All right, Ginger, we'll be watching it with you. We are also remembering an American original tonight, Ross Perot, a plain-talking Texan, a self-made billionaire whose third-party run for the White House in 1992 made history. In fact, 19% of American voters chose him that year for president.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ross Perot.
He was the self-made billionaire from Texarkana, Texas. The blunt, folksy presidential candidate, promising voters a break from politics as usual.
Now, just for the record, I don't have any spin doctors. I don't have any speech writers. Probably shows.
His populist message, Washington isn't working for you.
Dollars gone through the floor. Now, whose fault is that? Not the Democrats, not the Republicans. Somewhere out there's an extraterrestrial that's doing this to us, I guess.
During his 1992 campaign, Barbara Walters asking him this.
What have you learned from this experience?
How good the American people are, that down where the rubber meets the road, this country has millions and millions and millions of good people.
He won 19% of the vote that year, running as an independent. Many argued afterward he helped seal George H.W. Bush's fate up against Bill Clinton. But Perot earned votes across the spectrum.
We want to close on our theme song. Let's hit it, Ed.
We're crazy. Crazy for feeling.
Ross Perot on the eve of the 92 election, always dancing to his own tune. And Ross Perot was 89. The fate of Obamacare and health care benefits for millions of Americans again on the line tonight. A federal appeals court in New Orleans hearing arguments today. 18 Republican-led states backed by the Trump administration now arguing the Affordable Care Act is unconstitutional. California leading a group of 20 states defending it. And an appeals court in Manhattan has ruled tonight that President Trump cannot block critics from his Twitter account, saying that that would violate the First Amendment. Because the president uses Twitter to conduct government business as president of the United States, the judges said excluding critics stifles the expression of their point of view while amplifying the views of those he favors. There is still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Tuesday. Have you been overcharged? The major new case tonight against a well-known hotel chain and what to look for on your bill. Also, the alarming number tonight, 11 sightings of great whites off the East Coast in just 48 hours. Where this is playing out, and then this very rare image of great whites interacting. Also news tonight about an American woman, a scientist and mother, discovered dead overseas and where she was found. That's why there's so many questions tonight. And the new health headline this evening about women, anxiety, and that glass of wine at the end of the day got our attention. A lot more news ahead on a Tuesday night.
I don't know what's going on. I've done all sorts